If you're a dance instructor, you want to improve your students fast, right? You want them to go from beginners to intermediates to advanced dancers, people that everybody love dancing with. And you want to get them there as quickly as possible, right? You want them to just speed up and all of a sudden be this amazing dancer that you love dancing with and everybody else loves dancing with, and people are going, gosh, who did you take from? I want to take from them because you learn so fast, right? So if that's your goal, then today we're going to go over two of the key elements for improving your dancers fast. And we're going to dive deeper into this in my upcoming training, which you can access through the link below. But if you just want, let's go over two things really quick to help you just get that next step forward to really improving your dancers as fast as possible. So the first thing is probably pretty obvious. It's improve your students, right? And I would say you want to have methods to improve your students. And I ask teachers this all the time when I first start working with a teacher more intensely to improve their teaching. One of the things I ask is, how many methods do you have to improve your students? Or what methods do you use to improve your students? And sometimes I get blank stares like, oh, I don't even know what I use. I just go out and teach and they improve, right? Or sometimes people will be like, well, I use scaffolding or building blocks, right? Like I look at okay, I want them to get to this point and I build baby steps to get them there, right? And that's good. That's one method to improve. But if your main goal is to improve your students, you want to have more than one method to ensure that you're improving them. In any single class, you want to have 2, 3, maybe even 5 or 10 different methods in one class that you're using to ensure that they're improving as fast as possible. So if all you're using is scaffolding or one concept, or if you're just guessing at concepts, right, then your students probably aren't improving anywhere near the speed they could. So my recommendation is that you build out a list of 20, 30, 50 different concepts. Just build out a list of methods that you can use to improve your students. And when you structure your classes, you want to look at, okay, where does this method fit in, or does it fit in? And you pick maybe, I would say at least 2, but if you're a high level instructor, maybe 5, maybe 10 different methods that you're putting in any single class to make sure they improve. Does that make sense? Now, some of you might be wondering, well, yeah, it makes sense, but I don't even know what methods are out there, right? So let me give you a simple example that you probably will recognize and go, oh yeah, I've done that before, right? And that's just testing them before and after you teach them something, right? So that's a method to ensure you improve, is to actually go, okay, try to do this thing. Like maybe you're teaching a move and you say, okay, try to do that move right from the get-go. Right? Let's see if you guys can even do this move. And you realize, okay, you guys can't do that move. Okay, now let me break it down. And then by the end of class, test it again. Right? And then you can see, oh yeah, they actually did that move. Right? Now this might seem super obvious, but there's some key elements to doing a test before and after that are super important, right? One thing, the reason why you test in the beginning is because what if you test, you give them a move, and they can already do it right at the beginning of class? Then if you hadn't done that test, you might have gone through the entire class not realizing you're teaching them something that they can already do. You're wasting their time, right? Or what if you test it and they can do 90% of it, but they just got stuck on one little piece, right? So then you could have ended up spending time teaching something else that they didn't need to learn, whereas the one piece they didn't need to learn, maybe you only spent 5 minutes on it, whereas you could have spent 20 minutes or the whole class on that one piece to really make sure that they are then good and can do it afterward, right? The other thing to recognize with a before-after test is you don't want to teach them something that's so hard that by the end of class they can't actually do it, right? Or let's say you might even go so far as to say, by next week when they come back, if you ask them to do it again, they still can't do it. Like maybe they could do it at the end of class, but they didn't practice it enough times that next week they're going to remember it, right? So you want it to be something that's easy enough that, well, hard enough that they can't do it at first, right? And easy enough that by the end of class, not only can they do it, but they can do it well enough that they can come back and do it again by the next class. So that's one example of a method to improve your students, right? But you want to, again, you want to have a list of 3, 5, 10 different things that you can do in any single class. And you want to rotate those through different classes so you're not using always the same things, so that you keep your classes fresh and interesting. So that's one of the key elements to improve your dancers fast. But what's the second key element, right? So again, it's all about methods, but this time it's about inspiring your students, right? So it's one thing to improve your students, but if you never inspire them, they're going to eventually get bored and they're going to go somewhere else, right? So it's key that you have both improving your students and inspiring your students in every single class you do, so that they're always wanting more, right? That's the key. Inspire is about wanting more, right? Improving is just moving them faster down that process, but they're not going to stick with it and really become that dancer that gets to that level of loving dancing with them unless you inspire them to love dance the way you love dance, right? So what are some methods that you can use to inspire your students? And again, you want not just one method, but you want multiple methods to inspire your students, so that at any time your students are just going, oh my God, like I'm loving this class. Like throughout the class, you have different methods that they're going, ooh, oh, that's, oh, I want that, right? And now again, you might be going, oh, that makes sense, but what is a method? I don't know any methods to inspire students. And I will say you probably already use one a lot in your classes, right? And that one is just showing them something cool. Right? If you show them a cool move, they're like, oh, that's so cool, I want to do that, right? And you should probably show them that move multiple times during class, not just one time during class, but multiple times as they're working on the move. They want to be re-inspired in it, right? So that's one method, but it's just one. You want to use a myriad of different methods to inspire your students during class, so that you're just constantly getting them to go, wow, even if you're not showing something to them, like specifically like doing the cool move. What if you're doing a concept class or something else? You want to make sure you're always inspiring your students, so you have multiple methods to do that, right? Another example of inspiring your students, like a method to do that, is what I call minimizations versus exaggerations, and using minimizations instead of exaggerations. So what that means is, you'll know sometimes people will exaggerate something in class to show, hey, don't do this, right? They say, don't do this, like, and then they fall or they stumble, like when they jerk a partner or something like that. And then everybody goes, aha, laughs or something like that, but it doesn't really get anyone to realize, like, oh, I might be doing that. Oh, that's me. They all think, oh, that's someone else that you're dealing with, right? Because it's so exaggerated, they don't connect it to themselves. If you minimize it, that same thing, say you pull hard on somebody, and instead of the follow reacting by stumbling, she tries to hide the stumble as much as possible, so that when you do the movement and you compare it to what you want, you say, okay, what's the difference between A and B, right? And you show one and the other, and they can't see that difference. Now they're like, wait, what is the difference? Why is one better than the other? And then when you break it down for them, all of a sudden they have this aha moment of, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I now see something that I didn't see before, right? So they recognize that they're learning, right? That you have knowledge that they don't, that they couldn't see, right? And when you can show them that they have that knowledge, all of a sudden it's very inspiring to want to follow you, to want to take your lessons, because you have this special knowledge, right? And that's something that people I see make a mistake all the time. They're always like, oh, why don't students take my lessons? Like, I'm much better than this other instructor who doesn't know the fine details of the dance that I do. But it's because when you show those fine details, you're not showing them in a way that gets people to realize they didn't understand that, or they don't know that, right? So you've got to break it down for them to show them this is something you're missing in your dancing, and you're unaware of. And one way to do that is by minimizing it so they can't see it. And then once they're curious and they want to know more, then you can exaggerate it a little bit. Still don't exaggerate it a lot, just exaggerate a little so that they can see, oh, I see what you're talking about. But say, but you guys aren't doing it that big. You aren't exaggerating it. You're doing it small. That's why I want you to see it in a minimization, right? So that's another method to inspire your students. But again, you want to have multiple methods to inspire your students, right? And so if you want more methods to improve and inspire your students, that's exactly what I'm doing in my upcoming training. and you can just click on the link below to join the training.